Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to RX Site Ed. This is Matt Jensen, and I'm here with my friend Dr. Brian Szabo from Florida. Now, these sessions from RX Site are talking about real life usage every day with the light adjustable lens. And Dr. Szabo, I'm really excited that we're going to be talking together again. Last time I think we saw each other was at the Askers event that RX Site had. It was a memorable evening.
Yeah, it was, Matt. Thanks for having me, guys. That Boston event, Matt, that was a good time. That Love It Locker event, that was really fun.
It was great. Now, before we get started, maybe tell everybody just a little bit about your practice and its makeup.
Yeah, so yes, I'm in Tampa, Florida. I work with Dr. Hunter Newsom at Newsom Eye Center. We're a multi-specialty facility where we have refractive surgery, we have retina, we got glaucoma, everything all in one office, and several different types of offices. But my specialty, I am fellowship trained in refractive surgery, cataract, ICL, LASIK, and my passion really is giving quality outcomes, like a refractive outcome, to get patients out of glasses.
Yeah, and when you joined the practice, they were already using the light adjustable lens, correct?
Yes. So it's one of the highest implanting centers in the U.S., so I've been told. We did a lot of the FDA studies also through our office when the LAL first arrived at the scene, which is pretty cool. And that's one of the reasons why I joined the practice.
Well, I remember being at some of the early meetings when practices would get together, and I was still helping coordinate some of the research at Vance Thompson Vision. And Dr. Newsom and Dr. Thompson and the other providers were going back and forth. It was fun to be at the ground level with this exciting technology.
Yeah, and that still happens. I mean, I know Dr. Thompson and Dr. Newsom, they talk all the time, and especially with the LAL Plus rollout. All of our practices were heavily involved together, so it was really cool to be on meetings with Vance Thompson, Hunter Newsom, Dr. Berdahl. It was a good time and a really cool experience to be able to be a part of that. Yeah, so during my time in training, I trained here in the Tampa area with a lot of really high refractive surgeons. And the reason why I chose to do my fellowship with Newsom Eye was because of the light adjustable lens technology. So like I said before, they were implanting the most, definitely in the area, and probably in the state of Florida. So my goal was when I joined a fellowship, I needed to learn that light adjustable technology, because you could kind of see the writing on the wall. This was back in 2021, 2022, where the light adjustable lens was kind of really gaining traction and really gaining a big following. And I needed to know how to use that technology, because I saw it as the technology of the future, to be able to adjust that lens precisely to where the patient wants to be set. So that's why I did the fellowship with him.
So it was the primary one of the primary drivers of you joining Dr. Newsom in the first place.
Probably the number one. Yeah, because I wanted to know the ins and outs of it. I wanted to learn it. I wanted who to use it in, who not to use it in. Because really, I mean, it's just such a cool technology that nobody else has, and nothing else is like it on the market.
That's actually pretty fun to think about, that you kind of had the foresight to think, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
And I need to go someplace where using it is going to be foundational to my training.
100%. 100%.
That's impressive. Now, so you're in your fellowship year. Let's go back there for a second. What was your experience like with the light adjustable lens from the very early days?
Yeah. So my fellowship was about probably 2.5 to 3 years ago. And from the early days, I mean, it was I did everything, right? So I implanted the lens. I did refractions with the lens with the help of our ODs. And I also did targeting, and I actually delivered the light adjustment, the light therapy to the lens. So I was with it from every step of the way, and kind of along that individualized patient journey every step of the way during fellowship.
So you did the light adjustments and obviously the surgery as well.
Yes.
How does your practice utilize the light delivery device now?
Yeah, so we actually have a light delivery device in every one of our offices that we have. I believe we're up to 5 right now. And so in terms of that, we have an OD at every single location, so say we've already done the surgery, the patients are coming in for their adjustments. The patient will actually see the OD first. They'll get a tech workup, and we'll do 2 refractions actually. We'll do a tech refraction, and then we'll do an OD refraction. And then we dilate the eye, and then they actually come see me if they're one of my patients. And I will actually set the target, and I will actually deliver the adjustment.
Okay, got it. Well, that's a really impressive way to do it. So you're still kind of doing the whole process and
Yes.
very, very hands-on. Talk to me about how you introduce the concept from the consultation
Yeah.
on to a new patient who's thinking about having cataract surgery.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, that's where the expectation's set, right? That is, in my opinion, the most crucial point of the journey is what expectation are we setting for this patient? You could do a perfect surgery, get a perfect outcome, you think, and the patient's just not happy because you didn't meet their expectations. So it's very important in that first like cataract consult when you're introducing this technology to really give good insight on what the patient should expect. Okay. So I introduce it, we have 3 options. We have, a standard option, we have a middle option, and we have our light adjustable lens option, which is our highest option, our highest kind of upgrade. With that, I introduce, it is the only type of lens that can be adjusted after surgery. So I always tell a patient, I'm going to be doing a calculation based upon all your measurements. We're going to throw it into this calculation. It's going to spit out what kind of lens and what powered lens to use in your eye. I say with any other kind of lens that's not adjustable, that calculation is usually about 87 to 90% perfect for you, and you're going to love it. But there is a 10% kind of chance that that's going to be off, or you're not going to really like it as much as you thought you would. The key with the light adjustable lens, if you go that way, I'm still doing the same calculation. I'm putting in the same measurements. It's spitting out the same kind of power for you. But then if it is off, if you fall in that 10% to 12% range where, hey, maybe the lens is seeing a little bit anterior, maybe it's seeing a little bit posterior, that's okay with a light adjustable lens because I can literally adjust it after surgery. So that's kind of the way I introduce it. We have a fixed option, and then we have a adjustable option that I could change after surgery to fit it to you.
And do patients understand that distinction after your explanation?
Big time. And another analogy I like to use and Hunter likes to use is think about you have a golf putt, okay? With a fixed lens, I get one shot at this 10-foot golf putt, all right? A lot of patients in Florida love to golf, so it's a really good analogy. So if I have a fixed lens, I got one chance to make this putt. I'm going to look at the undulation. I'm going to look at all the measurements, and I'm going to kind of gauge where I want to, hit this ball so it goes in the hole. I get one shot. With the light adjustable lens, we have the same 10-foot putt, the same calculations, the same look at the green, but I get 4 chances to put it in the hole. I'm going to put it in the hole for you. Okay. That's just kind of how we use an analogy to kind of help the patients understand what the expectation is.
Yeah, well, it's a good analogy, and I'm a 4-putt person myself, so
Me too.
so
Me too. We'd be
I
great
get
golfers
it.
together. We'd have a good time.
We it is a nuanced conversation, right? Because it's the only technology where patients can test drive it
Right.
and see how they like it, and then make adjustments from there. You bring up a good point, because that time, while if we don't explain it, I think patients can look at it like it's a negative.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, they're doing work during that time. It's almost like they have homework to do.
Right.
Okay, you're going to go home now, and you're going to use your vision
Mm-hmm.
to do various activities, and you're going to pay
Exactly.
attention to different levels of vision,
Mm-hmm.
and your affection for that range.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And then we're going to come back in, and so I mean they're active participants during that time.
100%. So I always tell the patient, hey, the coolest thing about this lens is, you go use it in your everyday life. So your hobbies, you go golf with it, you play pickleball with it, you play tennis with it. You go watch TV, you drive, you could do all these things. And then you come back in and tell me, hey, doc, my distance vision's really good. Or, hey, my distance vision's not that good. I need to sharpen it up a little bit. Those are the different things that I tell patients.
That's great. Now, talk to me about the light adjustments themselves. Do you ever have patients come in and based on their confidence level or based on their preference, you decide, you know what, the adjustment isn't obvious today. I'm just going to have you wait.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely instances where that happens. So some of the reasons could be, hey, maybe some scar tissue setting in a little bit early, or hey, maybe the eye's too dry for us to do this, or anytime the refraction is just not making sense, right? your axes are off, or you don't understand why this is happening, we always say, hey, give us some time. Okay. If you can wait a week, we treat their dry eye, or we do a YAG capsulotomy, and we kind of give them time to, hey, go do these things for us, and let's get that surface optimized. Let's get everything optimized, so we take every variable out, and then we come back a week later and make sure we do it all over again. So that's kind of the key with that. So that does happen. It's very infrequent, but definitely that happens. And usually the patients are on board by then, and they're whatever they can do to get this process to keep on the right track, they're usually down to do that.
Well, you're setting me up for a lot of great responses, because you do underscore the benefit of this technology in that you might need a YAG capsulotomy. We might need to rehabilitate the tear film. A lot of times you'll know that going into the surgery,
right?
But that happens afterwards, and you'll do that before you lock in, before you do adjustments, and before you lock in. And so, any other rival premium option, we don't have that luxury.
You do not.
That's good. So do you have any quips or phrases that you use in particular that have really resonated with patients, that make them feel more comfortable with that kind of that test driving process?
Yeah, I mean, I basically say, go do all the things you love doing. Go live your normal life. And the patients are always asking, like, hey, during the adjustments, can I work out? Can I, do this stuff? And we all, like when they have their surgery, we say, oh, you can't work out for a week or so. Don't lift anything heavy. But now the patient can do literally whatever they want during the adjustment period. So you can go swimming. You could obviously get water on your eyes in the ocean. You could do all these different things as long as you're wearing your glasses, obviously. But we tell them, hey, go live your life. And then you come back and tell me what you need. You can't do that with any other kind of lens. So that's the beauty of this technology. And I feel like that's what really resonates with the patients. And it's kind of cliche because we're always saying test drive, and RxSight's always saying test drive your vision. But literally, I use that same verbiage. Like, this is the only lens that you can test drive your vision. And if you don't like it, we can change it. That really resonates with the patients.
Yeah, you can walk it around the block, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, I know that because of this technology, sometimes the people receiving it, they're not well versed in noticing the small differences unless they're coached to. How do you remind them to, hey, pay special attention to this when you're golfing? What are some of the things you say?
Well, I mean, the key for me is, like, I'm doing all my adjustments, right? So I'm setting the targets, I'm delivering the light, I'm doing all that, I'm very lucky to do that. And I like doing that because I learn the patient as well every time they come in. I'm learning, their facial expressions. I'm learning their thoughts and how they think about this. And with no other lens do I do that. The only time I ever see a post-op is if something went wrong or somebody's not happy. So I really value the time I get to spend with the patient because I get to see them once a week, and I get to know their tendencies and know what makes them tick, kind of thing. With no other lens do I ever get to know the patient like that. So I really like the experience. And what I tell patients is, every time I go in the room, I think I set an expectation, even at the adjustment period, which is very important. Really, they're telling me what they want. And then I'm able to have that conversation like, hey, if I deliver this adjustment, here's the expectation. So literally, Matt, I think the coolest thing about the way we do it is I get to set that expectation every time I do an adjustment. And with that, the patient gets confidence. And with that, I'm able to really bring a patient to exactly where they want to be.
Well, and you're talking about, verbal anesthesia almost, right?
Yes.
You're giving them confidence with their next step. And sometimes when they get to that last step, the lock-in, one of the questions that I get sometimes is, what do you do when a patient isn't feeling totally confident about that final lock-in? How do you give them that confidence?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, right? So I would say what I do in a certain, might be a little different than somebody else. When I walk in there, I look at my numbers and my refraction and what the patient's vision is with both eyes open and one eye open, one eye closed. So I'm really going there looking at their numbers and saying, if the patient has really good numbers with their 2015 and they're doing great, they're kicking butt, but they're still not happy, I kind of instill that confidence when I walk in the room, like, hey, you're doing great. You should see these numbers. These are unbelievable numbers you wouldn't be able to get with any other kind of lens. I kind of am always kind of that enthusiastic, like, in your face, like you're doing really good. And then if the patient still is not, happy with that, they're like, doc, it's still not quite right. I always tell a patient, you've had your natural lens in your eye for probably 60 to 70 years, right? You've had this lens in your eye for about a month or two. You need time for your brain to adapt to this. Okay. This is a whole new way for you to see visually, and you're seeing like you've never seen before. So it might take your brain a little time to adjust, just like in anything we do. So give it some time. Your numbers are there. I'm not worried about it. And you're going to be great. You just need some time to adjust to this new way of seeing.
Really good, really good. And I hear a lot of practitioners also say, they might start them where their vision was prior, right? Just look how far we've come in order to, finish out the conversation on taking that last little step of finality. That's great.
Right.
That's great. Now, as you know, the light adjustable lens, it's unique in its ability to provide a customized outcome. But can you share some kind of memorable case where this made a significant difference for a patient that wanted things just so?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the main things that stick out when using this technology on one particular patient I remember was actually a guy who loved golfing. He belonged to about 2 or 3 different country clubs, and it's he's retired. So, he does it all the time, probably 3-4 times a week, which is really great. And it's very common for that to happen. You see that in Florida all the time. But this guy in particular, he really wanted to show me what he was seeing. So he actually took me golfing with him while we were doing the adjustments. So the coolest thing was that we went to this golf course. I think we already done one adjustment, but he wanted to just make sure he wasn't missing anything. So he took me golfing with him, and he was able to say, like, hey, when I hit my driver, I'm seeing the ball fly down the middle of the fairway like that. It's great. So when he takes me golfing and we're doing these things, I'm watching him, hit the driver. I'm watching him chip. I'm watching him putt. All these things. And the main thing, he said he could see it in the distance great, and he wanted to see his ball flying, all that stuff. And I always joke, I'm like, hey, I can't help the golf game, but I can make you hopefully find your ball a little bit better. Let's see, hit it in the woods.
Yeah, and you can dial it in, right, after his specifications. But how powerful is that he took you along to observe his lifestyle and where he wants to use his vision? That's the magic of all this.
And that's also, like, you become close with these patients. So you become friends with them. And it's a really cool thing because you don't really get to experience that with other lenses. Like I said before, because usually I'm doing 20 or 30 cataracts. If I'm doing fixed lenses and I'm putting it in there and they're great, I don't see them again. The ODs see them again. But I see all my light adjustable lenses. So with that, because I do all the adjustments. So with that, I get very close to these people, which is I really enjoy that, and I become friends with them. But that instance definitely sticks out to me. And it wasn't like he was, very particular or he wanted, something over the top. He literally was just like, hey, you want to go golfing and I'll show you what I'm seeing. I thought that was a great opportunity to learn, through the process, how he's doing and what he's seeing. So it was great.
Yeah, it was a day in the field, right? Seeing how your technology that you implanted operates in the wild. It's so great.
Exactly.
So great.
It was a really fun experience for me, for sure.
Dr. Szabo, I'm sure you get a lot of questions from your colleagues because you do so many of these with, how to implement this technology. What about it do you love? But I'm curious about what you say to people who might walk up to you and say, yeah, but doesn't it take a bunch more time?
So if a patient says that, and that's kind of their argument where, hey, this is going to take me a lot of time. I just don't have the time for that. I work, I'm traveling, I got other things going on, my kids. I kind of tell the patient, hey, you got to think about it like this, okay? Yes, it's going to take a couple of weeks for us to do these adjustments, to lock you in, to put you where you want to. We are doing this, we're doing cataract surgery at 60, 65, 70. For the next 30 years of your life, this is the lens you're going to use to see. So isn't it worth taking some time out of your busy schedule? Isn't it worth giving me a couple of weeks to work exclusively with me? And when you kind of put it like that to the patient, they really, their walls come down. They say, you know what? Yeah, it's worth it. Let's do it. So that's you got to tell them, show the value. You got to show them kind of the worth and why you're getting this lens.
Well, let's turn that question just a little bit to your colleagues. Maybe you see them at a national meeting and they say, wait, doesn't this just take a ton of time? Aren't you? I'm a pretty good surgeon. I get great outcomes the way it is.
Yeah. So I would say to them, hey, how many enhancements are you doing? You know, so when you do the light adjustable lens, I'm literally doing 0 enhancements because I'm able to adjust the surgery after surgery. I'm literally able to adjust that patient to where they want to be, and if they're a little off, it's not a big deal. So that's one component of it. The second component of that question, in terms of time in the office, it's make the lens worth your time. We post it as our highest package. Okay, so it is higher than all of our other lenses, whether that's multifocal, monofocal, toric, or standard. So we price it at much more of a premium than we do, say, a multifocal lens, because of the
And
share time, because of all the extra visits. You got to make it worth your time.
well, and what I find is that I'm always skeptical of somebody who tells me that they don't like chocolate when they've never tried it
Sure.
and won't, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that there's something about this technology that when you give it a shot, and you see how ecstatic patients can be, and also team members, by the way, who get excited about the outcomes. It's pretty fun
100%.
to see some of the energy that comes from all that.
When you see your first 2015 distance vision on there, like, how could you not be happy with that? How could you not think this is worth your time? You know, you don't see the outcomes like with this lens, with any other type of lens sometimes. So it's just one of those things where, you know, once you see how happy your first patient is, you're going to think it's worth your time.
Yeah, and if a patient says to you, "Hey doc, like this, I'm sure it's great technology, but why so much?"
Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about the customization aspect to it, and you talk about to the patient, you know, you go and live with it, and you can come back after. And really, we can change your vision. There's nothing else like it. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive, because it is a truly customizable technology, and it's the only type of technology that's out there. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive.
That's great. That's great. So just from your perspective as somebody doing the surgery and also doing the light adjustment, what's been the most rewarding part for you?
The most rewarding part, I kind of talked about it a little bit before, is getting to know the patients. You know, I mean, these patients, they send in cards. I just had a little baby boy about 6 weeks ago. Literally, these patients are buying my wife and I presents, you know, for having our baby. You know, that's kind of the most rewarding thing to me, is working with these patients, you know, weekly, and trying to get them the outcome they want. And with that, you know, I can deliver such a great outcome with this technology, and we know how to use it here at Newsom Eye so well, that it's a great experience to just make a patient as happy as they can, and just knowing that I'm going to get them where they want to be, because I have the adjustments in the bag, and I can use that and use all my tools to get them where they want to be. So the most rewarding thing is getting to know the patients, getting to know what they want, and being able to deliver that expectation for them.
You know, that is such a noble thing that you responded with, because there's a number of things that are benefits with this technology. There's an opportunity to charge more. There's superior, outcomes. There's new flow and efficiency in the practice. There's the notable role that you have in the industry. But you come back to the core value of being a provider, which is I get to bond with my patients and really give them what they need and want. And it's extremely powerful when you say that, Dr. Szabo.
Big time. And I mean, the thing is too, Matt, you know, like in ophthalmology itself, I mean, most of the workup and most of the visit with the patient, you know, the tech's doing most of the workup. You got to dilate for 20 minutes, you know, all that stuff. And I get to see them for 5 minutes usually, whether we're doing any kind of lens or whether we're doing any kind of consult, you know. So it's really nice weekly to see these patients and talk to them, set the expectation, tell them where we're going, tell them where we've been. So it's very powerful, like you said, you know, just to get to know the patient a lot more, which is, you know, really fun and a really great experience for the patient.
Now, I'm going to ask you just a few more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're talking to a potential patient.
Mm-hmm.
If you could share with them just one thing about the LAL, what would it be?
If I could share with them just one thing about the LAL, I mean, it would probably be the fact that we can change it, right? So if you're not happy, we can change it. You know, we could go forward, we could go backward. It's one of those things where you get to test drive it. You get to use it in your everyday life. You know, I'm not guessing when I put this lens in your eye, okay? I'm not guessing if you're going to like it or not. I know you're going to like it, and if you don't like it, I can literally change it so you do. So that's probably the most powerful thing that I say to a patient, and probably what they hang on the most to, is that, hey, if you don't like it, we can change it, and that's okay. And then if you do like it, then we stop and we freeze it. That's probably the coolest thing, is just having that capability to be able to change throughout the process, and not being stuck with, oh, we have a fixed lens. Well, I got to take you back to surgery, or I got to do a LASIK touch up, different things like that. So obviously your enhancement rates go way down with this type of technology, because you can literally adjust it and change it to fit that patient perfectly.
Really powerful. Now, you run in some pretty powerful circles in our small industry, and not everybody loves new and disruptive technologies like this, right?
Sure.
So what do you say to them when they're saying, are you sure about that?
Yep. Yep. So that's a great question. So I'm from a small town. I'll kind of give you this story. I'm from a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it's a town where, I really care about the community and the people in that community. My parents still live there, friends, family, everybody's still up there. And I was talking to some local ophthalmologists there who were actually my mentors growing up. I saw that my first cataract surgery there and all that stuff when I was 17 years old, and they didn't have this technology yet. Okay. And it hurt me so much to know that my hometown outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, didn't have this capability and wasn't offering this technology to their patients. So literally, I went there and was constantly talking to them, calling them, saying, you have to have this technology. You need to offer this to your patients. Because, I felt at a loss that, they weren't able to have it. So literally, I'm talking to these physicians who I know very well, and not convincing and not selling, but explaining to them why they needed it. And they actually, finally were like, okay, yeah, let's do it. You make a good, compelling point. Let's offer it. And so that's kind of what hits kind of close to home for me, is being able to say that, hey, in my small hometown, not Tampa, not Chicago, not Los Angeles, but in Hermitage, Pennsylvania, they offer this technology to their patients. So for me, that's just like the most gratifying, satisfying thing, to know that, hey, I was a small part in trying to get this technology to my hometown, because it is disruptive, it is different, it is something worth having in your practice, and you'll know it as soon as you see the outcomes. You do your first 10 of these or so, and you're putting it in and you're seeing results. You're going to think, I've never seen results like this before. So I would just say, just give it a try, throw 10 lenses in, and you'll see it within a couple weeks. It's truly amazing. And we're very fortunate that we live in a day and age where we have this technology to offer to patients.
It's readily accessible. Well, it's no doubt in my mind you believe, right? And whether it's a large town in Florida or a small town in Pennsylvania, it's not like either party, either population want to see more than the other one. We all want more independence and freedom. And so it's a good testament to you and your character that you went back to your hometown and talked that way. Listen, it's been a real pleasure talking to you again, Dr. Szabo. And thanks for joining us on RxSight Ed, a series where we get to talk about real life usage with the RxSight technology, the light adjustable lens, and the LAL Plus. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me.